Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today we're going to learn the mimer of Shabbos Parshas Pinchas of 40 years ago. The 40th anniversary was a monumental farbrengen. Every farbrengen is historical, but it was the fourth, actually the fifth time that the Rebbe was speaking, in the time that he was, as we've discussed in the last few mamorim, through a tough period, and where we saw clearly, even in the mamorim, certain concepts and themes. This mimer, although it's not listed as an official continuation of the previous mamorim, but it does follow some of the theme, especially about the idea of the neshama coming down here tasked to have an accomplishment in this world, albeit with challenges. And certainly it's connected to that epoch and that period. Additionally, during that farbrengen, it's well known, famous, the Rebbe actually spoke in a certain sicha, a certain talk, different than he always had, and he really spoke, from his heart. He actually said he's having grief. He used the term that he's literally has heartache and headache from what's going on, etc. And he actually turned towards his left, and he put his hand on top of the table, something which the Rebbe didn't do those years, and he faced, because, and some people said at the time, he didn't want, he felt bad for his brother-in-law who used to sit to his right, and I don't want to say was caught in the middle, but he certainly with whatever it was, the Rebbe discussed certain things there. But I want to point out that this is the mimer within that farbrengen, and within that, and even the early talks in the farbrengen, that Rebbe spoke about the continuation of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, and about his Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, his father-in-law, etc., and the way that his work is alive and well, continuing, etc. So, without further ado, let's begin. We're back in the regular book of Hisva'aduyas, Teres Menachem, or the Sefer Mamorim Tavshin Memhei, same version. Kodesh Yisroel lahavaya Reishis Tvu'aso kol oichlov yashamu. So it begins with a verse of the Haftorah of the Shabbos. Now, Parshas Pinchas, if it falls out during the 3 weeks, then we read the first one of the special Haftorahs of that period called the Tvu'aso de Poranisa, the three Haftorahs of rebuke. Sorry for that technical little dive here, and maybe because we're talking about the rebuke, got a little jump here, a little jump start. So, if Pinchas comes out before the 17th of Tammuz, this after, if I remember correctly, it begins with the words V'yad Hashem Hoya. It's a separate haftorah, and then we would have Matas and Masei separate. Dvarim is always before Tisha B'Av. So here the Rebbe starts it with the first haftarah, and the Rebbe talks about it. Hine pasuk zeh. So who siyum haftarah the Shabbos. This verse is the end of the haftarah of the Shabbos. So the verse is as follows: Israel is holy unto God, the first of his crop, of his grain, and whoever eats it, meaning that grain, yashamu, will be guilty, will be responsible. Shebetchilas hagimul shavuos. This is right at the beginning of the 3 weeks we read this haftarah. Umadayik was able to look at the Torah. The Alter Rebbe learns this and speaks about this in the Likutei Torah. Ma zeh hatvua hanitzmach asher Yisroel mechunim b'shem Reishis shalom. What is this grain, this crop, which sprouts and grows, which Israel is nicknamed this the first of this grain? Gam yedua diuk dehine Tvu'aso hu behei. It's also well known, in several places Chassidic discuss this idea that if you look carefully, the word Tvu'aso, which means his grain, is written with the final letter Hey instead of the final letter Vav, which grammatically it should be. It's called a Kriya Neksiv. It's read different than it's written. It's written actually Tvu'aso, or if you would read it like it was written, but it's of course read Tvu'aso, but it's written that way. So the hini Tvu'aso who behei lebesoif v'akri u'becholam ka ki'ilu ne'emar bevov tzorich lahavim mahu inyan shaksiv hu behei v'hakri hu bevov. You have to understand what it's about, that it's written with the hay and it's read with avov. Gam yidu adiuk mashakosav achakach kol ichlov yashomu. Then we also have to understand specifically what is particular about this, that it says whoever consumes this, whoever eats that, will be guilty. Maz hashayich lema shehem kodesh. What is this connected? What is the connection with the fact that they are holy? Therefore, because they're holy, whoever will eat this will be guilty. So to understand this we have to look at the whole picture of the soul coming down. It's descending to the lowest realm. This descension is for the purpose of the ascension that will follow, the elevation that will happen after its accomplishments on this earth. Now, all of these concepts of the rest of this paragraph we had in the last couple of Amorim, and some of the next thing. So even though it's not a continuum, but it's the same idea, and I believe it's because of the same theme. I just want to point that out. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this nuance of the challenges that we encounter and the gain that we have after overcoming the challenges. Okay, so the descendants of the soul down to the lower realm is a great descending, great lowering. From a high peak to a low valley. When their soul was in the supernal realm, it's in the ultimate of elevation. As it is said, Kol nishmaso nishmaso hukayam b'dyukun kamei malka kadisha. Every single individual soul exists in the full way possible before the Holy King, in the full stature. And its service, whatever it does in the supernal realms, with love, true love of God and fear of God, is the most ultimate way, the most complete way possible. As the verse in King said, that all these things that I said earlier, alive is the Lord God of Israel, which I stood before it. That's the soul, which was before it came down. That's the ultimate of the true love and the bond of love and fear of God. From there, the soul descended to the lower realms, which is the ultimate of dissensions. But this dissension is for the purpose of the elevation, the purpose of being raised afterwards. Because this dissension itself will show, and it reveals that even when it's here, it is still a complete soul. Even when it's involved in challenges, involved in difficulty, etc. This is what the verse means when it says Israel is holy for God, the first of the crop. The root of the souls in the supernal realm is holy. Essentially holy. And the word Kodesh means it's special, it's removed, and it's essentially holy. More than that, it's not only holy, but it's holy for God and the name of God. Even within the name of God, it's also holy. And this whole idea of the descension, which is for the purpose of elevation that will come afterwards, it's in order that it should be in a way of the first of his crop. In other words, the soul of Israel is the first and foremost of the bounty that'll come forth, and specifically written with a hey, not with the vav. The hey here is what is unique about this hey, and that what it will teach us. The hey moide al briyas ha'olam. The first thing is that the letter hey is something that is illustrative of the creation of the world. Why? For a few reasons. Number one, ki hey koi al hey mitzvah. There are 5 parts of the mouth that cause consonants to happen and sounds. 5 basic things. So we speak from the lips coming together and the back of the throat and the tongue banging at the top and through the teeth, where the wind goes through. So there are 5. Those are called the 5 ways that speech happens. Therefore, that 5 hey, that hey is the numerical value of 5. So it's these 5 ways of speech. Therefore, it's the root of the letters of the 10 utterances with which the world was created. God created the world with speech. The gam hey. Now here's the second thing that Rebbe says. The gam hey koyelo is hey. The hey that it's written with is a hey. The letter hey. The letter hey is special in and of itself. Osaklila the less beim shosha. Which these words actually are in the poem called Akdomas, which is said before the Torah reading. The Torah is given, and when we read the Torah on Shavuos. But this is also quoted extensively in Chassidus. The idea is that hey is a soft, it's a light letter that doesn't have substance. It doesn't have. All the other letters are hard consonants. This is literally said like with some wind coming out of your mouth, but the hey sound is not substantive like the rest of the letters. So, and it's specifically that because that illustrates the gradualness of the creation. So, and with that, the world that was created, it went from the spiritual to the physical. This is like straddling both. The idea of before there's letters with something of creation. And with this letter hey, this world was created. As the sages say in the Talmud, that this lower world was created with the letter hey. That's what it means. His crop with the hay, that is illustrative of the creation of this low world. That's the whole idea of the soul descending to the lowest realm. This reveals that when the soul is down here, the soul is the first and foremost of the crop and the bounty, so to speak. And that's higher than everything else in the world. And more than that, even though the purpose of all the other worlds is for the purpose of this world, that's where it was created. Nevertheless, within the world itself, Israel is the first of the crop. It's even higher than everything else. And we can add the Masha Yisroel Nikroim Reishis Tvu'aso, that which the Israelites are called the first of the crop, who Kamayim Razal is like the sages, the dictum of the sages. Shakola Kavanah the B'riyas Ha'elam in Tvu'aso Behei, who B'shvil Yisroel Shenikra Reishis. This is really in the first Rashi of the Chumash too. The whole purpose of the creation of the world, which is the idea of the first of the crop with the hay, is for Israel and the Israelites, which are also called the first, Reishis. Right? That's what it says, Reishis Bara. In the beginning created. And it says Torah is called Reishis. Yisroel is called Reishis. Kol Oichlov Yashamu, and then the verse continues that all those that consume it are guilty and culpable and will be responsible. Vo'inyin Here's what it's all about. When the soul is down here, the lowest realm, it has freedom of choice. Like it says in the verse, as Gamer, I placed before you today the life and the good, and here the Rebbe stops. The Rebbe doesn't say the rest of the verse, but we all know what it says there. The opposites of these two, of life and good. And even though God helps him, because there are a lot of challenges, and the Talmud tells us that God helps out to do the right thing, even though we have freedom of choice. The Holy One, blessed be He, gives him strength that his service should be as it should be. Nevertheless, this choice, which means when this choice, then this is of course the in the interpretation of not the explanation of the conundrum that was going on in the womb of our mother Rebecca. She used to feel this great contest going on. She went to seek out counsel from God, say what's going on, and it says there were going to be two different nations, and one nation will be stronger than the other at different times, which is symbolic of, like it says in the Tanya, that in each and every one of us has the evil inclination and the good inclination, and therefore, this is in chapter 9, therefore they compete. They each try to get some words in edgewise, meaning to say to rule. So at times, unfortunately, the evil inclination rules. So that because there's freedom of choice, this could happen. That's how the Rebbe puts it here. Doesn't say somebody does the wrong thing. He doesn't say something evil. He says this loim yamatz. One nation will be stronger than the other nation. And because he's down here, the yeshlin in a and he has choice. It could be, heaven forbid, kol echlav, the ones who consume it. Whoever consumes the part of the Israel part within him, meaning the good inclination, the good. And that's why it says those that consume it, lashon rabim. It's not only one thing, but it's plural. It's more than one. V'yiserim is more than that. Kol echnov. It's all of those that consume it, meaning it's just not just plural, but many of them. Sheyeshnam harbe b'chinas eichem chas v'shalom. There's many who consume, heaven forbid, b'chinas Yisroel shebei. So we have many challenges, many influences, etc. And sometimes they get the better of us. So then what should be done about this? And this is told to us in the continuation of the verse, whoever consumes it will be guilty. Why? If somebody it mistreats something which was sanctified, it's called kochim, the holy, that which is holy. If something was designated to be holy, then it has to be only brought to the holy temple, etc., and only done how they designate to do it. If somebody does something else, then then there is a fine to be paid, etc. What's the connection here? Because it says that whoever consumes it will be guilty, meaning that the first part of the verse says that Israel is holy. Kodesh Yisroel LaHashem. We are holy to God. Israel is holy to God. So then it says regarding that, that if somebody sins and with something which is designated to be holy, he has to pay, and he has to add a fifth. Now this fifth, the Talmud explains, isn't 20%. It's actually 25%. It's an equal portion of the other four. And it means you have to take what was 4 portions and add a 5th portion. So that would be the equivalent of 25%. And like it says in the Gemara Bava Metzia, that the 5th is one out of, like the 4 from the principle. so that the each part should be equal to the fifth part, but starting with the principle. So then you divide that into four, and now make a fifth part equal to the four. So when you divide anything into four, it's 25%, and now you make another part that's equal to those 25%. So usually, if I would say take a fifth, or you have to add a fifth, so you divide everything, you divide it, and you would say it's 20%, but this really means 25%. Okay. Now, what is the deeper meaning of this? There are four worlds, and now look how the Rebbe ties this in here. There are four worlds, right? One higher than the next. The world of Asiya is the lowest world of action, right? And then there's Yetzira and Bria and Atzilus going up. So now, in addition to the four worlds, the fifth world is the level of the infinite worlds that are even higher than the highest world of Atzilus. Before it even goes into worlds, we get into that part of creation, there's going to be this creation. And guess what? It's the same way in the soul of mankind. We have the four parts of the soul, and then the fifth part, that's called Yechida. So we say this nefesh, ruach, neshama, right? The soul, and the spirit, and the breath, chaya, and the life. And Yechida is the quintessential point. Yechida shebenefesh, that's the deepest part of the soul. That's the part that's the most quintessential point within the soul. This is what it means that whoever consumes it is guilty. When someone is inappropriate and contaminates or etc., the holy v'achal bechinas Yisroel shalois. Now in the bigger picture, they consumed the Israelite part of them, and meaning not the right thing was done. You have to dip in and reach the fifth level, bechinas elamis ha'insof, from the infinite worlds, shalamayla me'atzilus, which is higher than the highest world of bechinas yechida shebenafshe, which corresponds also to the level of Yechida, this deepest part of the soul. But the fifth is like one of four, like it's like a equal part of equal to 25% of the original. Like we said, this principle in the Talmud. What does that mean here in Chassidus and in this parable of the soul? So that you have to also elevate all four levels. They should also be included in this fifth level. And like it says in the portion of Vayigash, when Joseph was collecting the food, etc., he said, four will be for you, and the fifth will be for Pharaoh. You have to elevate. Now this is Kabbalistically explaining that this is the parts of our own challenges. Hands also signify things that you do in action. And you have to elevate that. They will also become included in the fifth level, which is to Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh, there's a Pharaoh, the evil Pharaoh, but also Pharaoh means to pay. It means to complete. And it could be in a positive sense. It could be in the opposite of positive sense. And then like the mimer that he's quoting, he finishes off by saying, regarding the holiest day of the year, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. One of the ways that it's described even in the prayer is that it's a day that we say 5 prayers. And it's a day that we're obligated to say 5 prayers. Not every Sabbath and Yom Tov, every Shabbos and Yom Tov, every festival, we say already 4 prayers. because we have the usual of the three of every day, right? Ma'ariv, Shachar, Mincha, and then we have an additional prayer of Musaf. So we have the evening, morning, and afternoon, but then we have the additional prayer. Now in Yom Kippur, there's even a fifth prayer. So the Navalei, the new thing about Yom Kippur is that there's only the fifth prayer, which is at the end of the day, the closing part. That's called Ne'ilah. Nevertheless, the whole day is called the day that we have to say 5 prayers, meaning there's a connection between all the prayers. At the time in Yom Kippur when we pray the other 4 prayers, those 4 prayers are also all elevated to this 5th level, even though it's not yet, it's the other prayers. And certainly at the time of the 5th prayer, that corresponds to the deepest level of the soul. Then all the 4 previous prayers are all included into the 5th prayer, this 5th level of Yechidah. So the Rebbe is saying that this also in our own lives, we have to realize and that we're able to now overcome the challenges by dipping into that part within ourselves that's even higher than our usual, and that corresponds to the infiniteness of before creation and the deepest part of our soul. And here the Rebbe also was talking at this time of challenge in the whole legitimacy of the Lubavitcher movement, etc., etc. But he looks at it as in our own service. Kodesh Yisroel Reishis Tvu'aso like the verse that we started with, that Israel is holy to God, the first of the crop. Anyone who consumes it is guilty. Even though the soul on its own is holy. Nevertheless, it descended to below in order to reveal that even when it's down here, involved in all the stuff, it is still the first of the crop. This is the whole idea of the ascension, that is for the purpose of the ascension. And that's also, even when the challenges it comes along that someone consumed it and there was things done not as it should be. Even when he's in a situation that there was some consumption involved, that eats the Israel part, the right part. This is also a dissension for the purpose of ascension that I was pointing out here. That's also, even when things go wrong, it's for the purpose of how the wrong will get righted. And again, just pointing it out the context. That's the idea that then that will be guilty. In other words, something good will come out later. You reach the 5th level. That's why this verse is in the Haftarah that we read at the beginning of the period of the 3 weeks that are called between the boundaries, starting with the 17th of Tammuz, commemorating the breaching of the wall of Jerusalem, culminating in the 9th of Av, which is the anniversary of the destruction of the temple. Bein Hametzarim, what's the whole purpose of between these boundaries? Is, as the Rambam writes, at the end of the laws of fast, he quotes the verse in Zechariah, these days will be transformed to days of happiness and joy. And the truth and peace is what they love. Therefore, at that time, we say this verse, Kodesh Yisroel Reishis Tvu'aso, that Israel is holy to God, the beginning, the first of his crop. Those who consume it are guilty. Like we just explained at length, that's the whole idea of the dissension, which is in here that I was referring to then historically, which is what we mark and therefore experience. The destruction, which is the lowest, the worst ascension, the destruction of the temple. Excuse me. The idea of saying this verse at the beginning of the time, between these dates, the It's like the idea that the Holy One, blessed be He, brings the healing and the before the illness, before the sickness. When God heals, it's as if He retroactively just uproots whatever it is from the first place. Like it says in the verse that all the illnesses that I placed upon you in Egypt, I won't place upon you. That means that it'll be like it was never there. It'll be totally retroactively. If you say that's the healing of God, you say to Mizu, more than that, these days will be transformed to gladness and joy, happiness and joy. When it's uprooted, meaning the anxiety and the grief and the sadness of these days, it's totally uprooted. Then, if it's as if it was never there, then there would not be anything accomplished, and the goal wouldn't be met of the dissension. So in addition to uprooting that which is not acceptable, not something that we want, when it gets uprooted as if it's from the beginning, there's something more. There's the transformation to good. They'll be transformed. So it means those things are there, but they'll be changed around. So the dissension was for something that will be turned into happiness and joy. That's the elevation for which the ascension was. Maybe the will of God through serving God with loving one's fellow. The unity of Israel. That is the nullification of the reason that there was a destruction. The reason for the destruction, and is like we say in the prayers on the festivals, because of our sins we were exiled from our land, and especially when there was lacking in loving one's fellow, loving amongst Israel. Therefore, through serving the service of loving one's fellow, loving Israel, the unity of Israel. That is the nullification of the reason that the destruction happened. If we get rid of the cause, then automatically the effect is dissipated. And more than that, this dissension is for the purpose of this ascension of that these days will be transformed to happiness and joy. So shalom ahavu, and the truth and peace is what they love. The inyan shalom, peace, hugam mashi isgal achdus avay be'elam. It will have the revelation of the unity of God, that everything is part and parcel of God in the whole world. Like it says, that the glory of God will be revealed and all flesh will be see together, and like we've said in other Ramadan, the flesh will already be able to see. You don't even need the eyes. Keep that the mouth of God is what's speaking. We all go together with our youth and our elderly, with our sons and our daughters. A great group, a combination, a great congregation in the singular. It will return there. To the Holy Land, and afterwards to Jerusalem, and within Jerusalem itself, Bahara Kodesh, on the holy mountain, Kodesh Mila Begamei, which is essentially holy, like we said, something which is holy in its essence. Bein and Bein Hametzarim, this happened with the building of the third temple, third Bein Hametzarim Bagola, done in our victory. Speedily in our days, actually so LaHashem.